My name's Jay Postones. I play drums with TESSERACT, and if you've ended up here, then there's a very good chance you've got some questions around your practice routine. Let me start by saying that you're not alone. You're not the only person in the world that struggles with a practice routine. I can guarantee that. Most of the people that I speak to, the vast majority of the people that I take on as students, the people that join my masterclass, most of them have got questions about their practice routine. They're looking to optimize it. They're looking to get one in place. A lot of them just have no idea what a practice routine should even look like. And that's one of the very first things that I help them get in place. There are a few things that you can do that have personally helped me massively within my own practice routine that you should consider. So the first one is this is very important, is to not create overwhelm. That means don't set yourself up with a goal that's completely unachievable. If you are trying to learn a new song, if you're trying to learn a new rudiment, a new pattern, whatever it is that you're trying to do, be realistic about that goal. Quite often, very often, all the time, people have an unrealistic expectation of what is possible in a short amount of time, and they underestimate how much they can get done if they were to just expand that timeline over a longer duration. There are patterns that I'm playing now on the drums that have taken me years to get to a point where I'm comfortable enough to play them in front of an audience on stage with TESSERACT. So I now understand that to get something to that level of comfort and fluidity within my own playing, it's going to take me longer than a couple of practice sessions generally, and it's very important for you to understand that too. A second thing to consider is removing obstacles. So what do you have that is standing in your way of practicing? I know some people maybe don't have a home practice set up, which is immediately a disadvantage. If you've got to drive somewhere to go and play the drums, if you've got to leave your house, leave your place of comfort, go to a studio 30 minutes down the road in your car, maybe you've got to pack your drums up and stick them in the car to go and do that. That's a massive pain. I've found that for my own practice and my own mental health, I need to have a kit at home like this. I need to have a practice kit. And again, within the restrictions of where I live, this is what I can have set up. I've got an electric kit here. It's a Roland TD50. It's a very nice electric kit, obviously. And I know that I'm lucky to have a kit like this. I don't have the capacity to have an acoustic kit set up here. So I've accepted those limitations. Before a TESSERACT tour or before a recording, I'm only practicing on this. So I've removed the limitation from myself that I need to practice on an acoustic kit before doing these things, because I know now that it's not the truth. It's just something that I made up in my brain. If you're trying to get set up yourself with a home practice setup, consider the space as well, because a kit like this, for example, you don't need to do that much soundproofing or any soundproofing potentially in a home. If you're playing with an acoustic kit, then you probably do. And the price of setting an acoustic kit up with a soundproof room is considerably more than getting one of these kits. Let's say you're just trying to get into a daily routine with some rudiments, then set up a practice pad that is literally next to your desk if you work from home, or it's the first thing you do when you get out of bed. When you're making your coffee, you can go and sit somewhere with your practice pad and make it into a routine. If it becomes a part of a daily routine, it's much, much easier to stick to over the long run. It doesn't even need to be a daily routine. It could be 3 days a week, 4 days a week. But very importantly, the obstacles are the thing to get rid of. And one of those obstacles for me is literally putting it in the calendar. If I put these things in a calendar, then there's a very good chance I'm going to turn up and do it. Also, don't let this be a negotiation with yourself. I know how easy it is to not turn up and do something when you'd rather do something that's more comfortable. But by allowing that other part of your brain to negotiate and say, hey, well, maybe I'll do that later, maybe I'll turn up later and do that, you won't turn up and do that later. I know that if I do that, I won't turn up and do that later. I have to do it when it's scheduled to do it. So get a routine in place, get the days of the week that you're going to turn up and consistently do that, and the time of those days in place. That's very, very important. Another thing to consider is to make the process rewarding. So one of the ways I do this is by keeping a short journal of the things that I've worked on that week, because it's very easy to look back at a week or a month and feel as though, man, I didn't really get anything done, did I? I don't know that I practiced that enough. I didn't really see any improvement in that. I bet you did. I bet if you take a recording of you at the beginning of a month practicing something, and then every week you keep recording that thing, and then watch at the end how much of an improvement you've made, I bet it's noticeable, especially to you as the person that's doing it. You will be able to notice even a small improvement from where you've come from to where you end up over the space of about a month. And seeing that improvement, seeing that gold star on the video, seeing that BPM improvement, whatever it is that you're trying to measure, that is the reward of this process, and that's what makes you keep coming back to it. Those are a few fairly simple things that I like to present to all of my students immediately to get them thinking about what it is that's kind of stopping them or hurting their progress at the moment. Once you've identified those things and sorted all of that out, the next thing to think about is what it is that you're going to practice. And that for a lot of people is the confusing thing. What am I supposed to practice? I've got a vague idea of what it is that I'm interested in, or I know specifically what it is that I need to do. What have I got to practice to get there? And for a lot of people, that's really confusing. Mainly, I think, because these days there's an abundance of material out there that is telling you it's that, or it's that, or it's that. This is the way to practice. These are the things you're meant to practice. There's no consistency, and there's a sea of information out there. Now, what I try to do for my students is provide only the things that have worked for me. Over my 25 years of drumming, these are the literal things that I've focused on that work for me. It's not a sea of information. You're not going to get bogged down with misleading and like just wrong information. These are the things that are tried and tested. I've worked with my students with these things as well, and it's worked for them, and it works very, very, very well. There are three main types of practice. You've got rudimentary practice, which sounds exactly the way it sounds, where you're practicing a new pattern, a new sticking pattern, a new rudiment, whatever it is. And that, in my opinion, is the most boring way of practicing, because it's just like revision for a test. You're just repeating this movement over and over and over again. There is intentional practice, where you're practicing something for a reason. You're practicing a song for a show or a live recording, that kind of thing. Maybe you're doing a YouTube video or a cover. That's intentional practice. And there is organic practice, which is my personal favorite way of practicing, where I play along to something that generally isn't Tesseract, if I'm being totally honest. It's something completely different. And I just allow myself to move as freely as I can. And that, for me, is preferred because I identify in that type of practice a load of ideas that are on the bleeding edge of my current natural abilities without having to look at external stimuli for inspiration. Because sometimes doing that can make you feel like you're a terrible drummer because these people can do it so much better than you. Not necessarily true. That's just a story we tell ourselves. And if you look within yourself, you can very often find what the next stage of your journey is without having to do that. So those types of practice, rudimentary practice, intentional practice, and organic flow type practice, those are the only three things that I use, and they work incredibly well. And within the first section of the masterclass, within the first module, I go into all of that in a lot of detail so that you're aware of all of my processes, all of my ideas, all of my practice routines, and I break each of those things down so that you've got a really obvious and easy to follow pathway to apply that to your own practice routine. If you're interested in exploring this a little bit more, then I'd love to set up a Zoom call with you. If you're interested in becoming one of my students, then let's have a chat. I've left some resources below this video that you can check out as well, but hopefully just the ideas in this video are enough to at least get the ball rolling for you to start thinking about your own routines, and hopefully just get you to that next level, because I know that sorting out a practice routine is so important, and without one you can just feel lost for a very long time. But like I said, if you're interested in taking it to the next level and you want some help from me personally, then let's set up a chat.